Conservative Christian activist and radio host Tony Perkins decided to fearmonger on his show about those no-go zones for non-Muslims in Muslim areas, and he's going to argue that they now exist in America.
Let me talk about the no-go zones. Now, some of that, I mean, we saw the effect of that in France, where they have like 700 no-go zones, where authorities have allowed the basically Sharia law to be imposed. There are some areas in this country that, in effect, that has occurred. Dearborn, Michigan, one of the places. There are some places in Minneapolis. I don't think it's as clear cut as what we've seen in Europe. It's been more, again, by the effect that's occurred. We have to be very alert and diligent here, vigilant, to ensure that we're not allowing any form of Sharia law in any form or any fashion, whether by overtly or covertly, to be imposed in communities. And there's evidence that it is happening. That's why you've had state legislatures across the country pass legislation making clear that Sharia law is not valid.
No, the reason you've had legislatures like in Oklahoma, for example, legislating against Sharia law is because they're fucking crazy. You do understand that in the United States of America, Sharia law is already banned. You do understand that's as banned as any kind of Christian theocracy would be. You do understand that, right? That's kind of the point of the First Amendment. Do you not know this? You talk about politics every day. You don't understand the basic founding principles of our nation? No, the reason why those dumbass places were trying to legislate against that is because they're stupid. Because they're not taking their job seriously, where they're actually addressing real problems like, I don't know, starving kids, shitty healthcare systems, bad economies, deficits. They're like, are we so scared of the Muslims? Let's go pay no more Sharia law, no Sharia law. They say it as if like next Tuesday, if they don't do it, Sharia law all of a sudden is going to take over Kentucky. He just said there's no-go zones in America. First of all, they're not in Europe. They're not in France. Like, that's just a given. He's like, there's over 700 of them. I have the official count right here. Really? Do you have Google? Do you own it? You might want to take a look at that, it's called Snopes. You ever heard of Snopes? They fact-check urban myths. Yeah, that would be a myth. The way they define no-go zones is police don't go there. It's all Muslim. You're not allowed in there if you're a non-Muslim. It's a state within a state, and it's governed by Sharia. They don't exist. They do not exist. They said over so many of them in France. France has been mocking Fox News all day and night since they said that. They've literally gone into these areas and interviewed people, and they're like, the fuck are they talking about? One of the places they said was a no-go zone, it's only 22% Muslim. It's more of a no-go zone for Muslims than non-Muslims, if anything. They're not even a majority of the population in certain places that they say they are. They're in Dearborn, Michigan. Okay, you know what the best part of this story is? Keith Ellison, who's the representative of that district, sent a letter to Tony Perkins. He's like, you're talking about my district, number one. Number two, I assure you it's not true. Number three, I'm inviting you right now to come here, and I will take a tour with you through the city. You can meet the local leaders. And the Muslims that we do have living in this area, they're great people who I talk to all the time, and they add to the diversity and the multiculturalism of America. It's fantastic. Let's play a game here for a second. Let's do a thought exercise. Let's say everything he just said is true, okay? We know it's not, but let's just say it is. Let's just say it is for argument's sake. So there's all these Muslim no-go zones in France and in Europe, and there's all these no-go zones here in America, in Dearborn, Michigan, and Minneapolis. His further point is what? Hey, look out now. Be afraid. We see what ISIS is doing, setting up that caliphate. What do you think's going to happen here if us good Christians don't get out there and vote and don't pay attention and don't nip this problem in the bud? What do you think's going to happen? Be afraid. Look out. The Muslims are coming. Everybody, watch it. That's what his underlying point is, right? You ready for the size of the Muslim population in the entire United States of America? What percentage of the population does it make up? 0.6%. So even if everything else he said was true, which it's not, but if it was true, to fearmonger over Muslims in the United States of America and how they're going to take over different state governments and set up Sharia law, they are only 0.6% of the population. They couldn't take over a small town in western Nebraska if they wanted to. So all this is in all seriousness, Islamophobia. I know people like to pretend that doesn't exist. It does exist. You're listening to it right now. That's what Tony Perkins represents. It's Islamophobia. It's xenophobia. It's also racism. It's a closed-minded, bigoted, intolerant approach to viewing the world. And it's tribalism in the sense that he's trying to rile up the good Christians and conservatives and Republicans to oppose all those evil liberals and Muslims and the people who are taking over America.